The Whisperer, the Mustang, and the Great Spirit. "Grandfather," little Win asked, "tell us the story of the Mustang called Patch." Grandfather chuckled and thought, these little ones never grow tired of listening to the legends of long ago. The smoke rolled upward to the starry sky. The smell of the wood blanketed all who gathered around the fire to take the chill off the night air. The ancient Native American legend had been passed down for generations as far back as anyone could remember. Each tribe had its own version of the story. Grandfather took a deep breath and savored the smell of the wood and the fallen autumn leaves. He was never in a hurry. He began by saying the fable had said Patch was the greatest of all horses. No one matched him in speed or in beauty. Patch was also wise. He created a language known only by a few creatures. The legend had said the words sounded like a whispered song, but many ancestors think it had been whispered to him. Long ago, Patch never allowed any horses to be ridden. One day, Patch was galloping at a high speed and brushed up against a poisoned thorn. The pain shot through him and lodged deep in his skin under his mane. 2 days passed and he had grown weak. He had asked the Great Spirit for help, but he had not heard any reply. Little One had clutched his blanket so hard he had wound it into a ball. Little Sky elbowed him and yelled, "You need to share." The storyteller reached across and helped Little Wind and Little Sky untangle the warm red blanket. "Grandfather," the storyteller took his place around the circle while the campfire was aglow in the midst. His snow-white hair draped his deerskin shirt. The fire caught the twinkle in his ancient eyes. From the oldest to the youngest, they all waited, anticipating the rest of the legend. Grandfather looked up at the sky. The breeze filled his hair, and he closed his eyes as if remembering. He continued. The Great Spirit did answer the Great Mustang on the evening of the second day. However, help would come in a way he was not expecting, and there would be a test. The silvery stallion had white patches all over him, had gotten arrogant, and he gloried in his own strength, and pride had formed in him. The storyteller let out a sigh. He drew his blanket around him as he continued. Patch met a traveler that night. It was said the moon was then as it is now, full and bright. The man had seen blood on the silvery mane of the majestic animal. He grabbed his knife, dug out the thorn, and put salve on it. His legs were weary because he had come an enormous distance. The man had sat down, put his head in his hand. The man had put Patch's needs before his own. His stomach was growling and his lips were cracked because he had no water. The man started to speak in whispers, but the stench from the man had made Patch uncomfortable, and he couldn't get past it. Patch turned to go. He had not heard him speak. He had forgotten what the Great Spirit had said. The wondrous, majestic Patch had failed the test. He was too prideful. Little Sky and Little Wind were crying. They jumped up and threw themselves into Grandfather's arms. "Why are you crying, little ones?" with a loud sob. Little One said he failed the test because his heart changed and he was selfish. "This is true, little one, but the most important lesson was not lost," the storyteller said with a smile. The two little faces looked up at him with their full attention. Grandfather, Little Sky asked, "What was not lost?" "Listen, and I will tell you," the storyteller continued. As Patch started to trot away, he thought he heard his language being spoken to him. "What man dares speak this language?" questioned Patch. As the man stood, a light surrounded him. The great stallion's heart sank and his knees trembled. He knew he had wronged the man. The Great Spirit had sent him, and he had not recognized the horse whisperer, the traveler. The bond between the Great Spirit, Patch, and the horse whisperer had been strong and ancient, but now only a thin strand held it together. Patch bowed low and wept bitterly. In a sorrowful voice he said, "I have wronged the Great Spirit. Please forgive me for my arrogant pride." And the horse whisperer reached out and touched his mane. "My friend, I forgive you," answered the man. "In order for the poison of pride not to return and enter in, you must allow all horses to be ridden from now on, and that includes you." In the moonlight, all that were gathered around the fire saw the glint of a silver and white patched horse on the hillside. As grandfather stood up to leave, some thought they heard the storyteller whisper a song.